Hello, today is Tuesday, September 15th, 2020. I'm Joe Schmidt from TC2, and this is Staying Connected. Just over 2 weeks ago, I was joined by a few of my TC2 and LB3 colleagues to discuss a major failure of CenturyLink's network that caused widespread outages across the internet and a huge disruption to business activity. On that podcast, we discussed how CenturyLink caused the outage and what businesses need to be doing going forward to mitigate the effects of these types of events in a network world built around cloud-based architectures. Well, not missing a beat, CenturyLink yesterday announced that it is renaming its company and rebranding its enterprise business as Lumen. The platform it will use to deliver the portfolio of services will also be called Lumen. And in the company's words, the platform will allow companies to participate in the fourth industrial revolution. If you're excited about this and want to make an investment, their stock symbol will change from CTL to LUMN. To discuss what all this means for enterprise customers, or if it means anything at all, I am joined today once again by Theresa Knutson, a fellow director at TC2, and Andrew Brown, the chairman of TC2 and the managing partner of LB3. So, Theresa, you were on the receiving end of a lot of the CenturyLink Lumen press releases and have been gathering intelligence from our clients. So what have you found out?
Well, it's interesting. CenturyLink's announcement on Monday was definitely big news. I mean, I think I got emails in 3 or 4 different languages with the big name change announcement. So it was definitely out there. But when you go through all the marketing and PR stuff, it's pretty clear that this is really a rebranding and renaming strategy right now. It may set the stage later for a reorganization of CenturyLink's business, or it may not. It's really hard to tell. But this announcement was filled with all kinds of platitudes, things like this is a new era for their company and that they're transforming their enterprise business. And apparently enterprise businesses can transform their business with Lumen services, which they describe as the platform for amazing things. And like you said at the beginning, this platform for amazing things is the same network that essentially went totally dark just a few weeks ago.
Well, maybe that's why they're renaming it.
Oh, maybe. There is some logic, behind what they're trying to do. CenturyLink is an old school ILEC name. It carries the reputation with it. But it has acquired a lot of technology forward assets over the last few years, not the least of which was their huge acquisition of Level 3, which included, of course, Level 3's global IP network and a stable of blue chip enterprise customers. So a rebranding like this makes some sense.
Okay, Andrew, what do you think enterprise customers can reasonably expect from all this?
In the short term, not much, or at least not much more than they were getting from CenturyLink last week, which, is not much. First of all, like Theresa said, you gotta love the timing of this, right? And clearly this rebrand had been planned for a long time and cost who knows how much money to test market the new name and the new corporate strategy and the marketing and all that. And so 2 weeks ago, the company fails at the single most important thing they need to deliver to their customers: network uptime and availability. And because the rebranding is on a schedule separate and apart from the reality of their day-to-day operations, they launched the rename of their company and their platform before the root cause analysis of the outages is even cooled off.
It's almost like seeing an accident in slow motion.
A little bit. But once you get past that, and it's hard, but once you do, Theresa makes a really good point, which is that CenturyLink was kind of surprisingly well positioned to make a bigger move into the enterprise market, which is historically just dominated by AT&T and Verizon, at least in the US. The Level 3 acquisition was really significant. And, we were noting as long as 2 years ago at our TC2 and LB3 conferences that CenturyLink was, from a network asset standpoint, really well positioned to serve the enterprise market and companies pursuing digital transformation with SD-WAN and internet-first strategies. I mean, they're at the very top of the carrier Ethernet rankings when you look at number of retail ports installed. So there is some potential there, but ultimately you have to convince customers you're capable of offering and delivering services that meet their technical and financial requirements. You have to close big deals.
That's where we've historically quite often seen CenturyLink struggle. They serve a lot of enterprise customers because of their ILEC assets. That is, what used to be US West assets. and they inherited a lot of big enterprise contracts from level 3, but it's kind of a limited level. So what we've experienced is that they are somewhat uneven in responding to RFPs, but more importantly, they're not doing a very good job of supporting enterprise accounts.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, CenturyLink of late is something of an enigma. They do go after new business. They think they can win pretty aggressively. They have competitive pricing and some reasonably flexible commercial terms, but they struggle to deliver with a high degree of service and support. We have clients that have a lot of chronic service issues that are hard to get resolved. And CenturyLink also seems to have significant billing problems, which, drives enterprises crazy. Even though it's pretty typical with all the major carriers, CenturyLink is in a class by itself. And these billing issues are really intensified by CenturyLink's predilection to have individual circuit term contracts.
So, Theresa, let me guess. None of those issues got mentioned in the press release about Lumen.
No, it's all about amazing things of the future. But the day-to-day reality is way too mundane for a big press release. But, that's what businesses have to deal with. And even if it's a lot more interesting to talk about things about the platform to help customers across every industry to deliver amazing things, offering a competitive deal with good pricing and flexible contract terms, and providing accurate billing would be pretty amazing. But seriously, from an operational standpoint, there are a couple near-term issues that companies will need to address as a result of this change. Companies are going to have to update their vendor profiles and their accounts payable systems, or coordinate with their telecom expense managers or TEM providers to get the vendor names updated. So CenturyLink will now become Lumen. But based on my experience, billing changes take a really long time. So when I say a really long time, it's probably going to be way more than a year before you see that name change on your invoices.
So, Andrew, Theresa just mentioned a few near-term operational issues. Is there anything on the legal or the contract side customers need to deal with right away?
We don't think so at this point. I mean, from what we can tell so far and what we've been talking about, this really is just a name change and rebrand. It's not an actual reorganization or assignment of their enterprise agreements to a new entity or anything like that. They're apparently keeping the CenturyLink brand in place for small business and residential customers, and Lumen is the brand that will support the business market, but it's the same company. So you may see some pro forma contract amendments to change the name, or it may just be an announcement of some kind. But, I will caution customers here. If you start getting amendments from CenturyLink with changes supposedly required by this name change, you really should review them very carefully to make sure there's nothing else in there that changes your contract in ways you may not want. There's really nothing they've done here that should necessitate big contract amendments, so it shouldn't be an opportunity for them to modify anything substantive in the agreement.
Well, thanks for that, Andrew. That's useful to know in the short term.
Yeah, I think what would have been really nice to hear in their press release, aside from this shiny new company, is something that talked about being, this is their enterprise business called Lumen, to say not only are we the platform of the future, but we're going to make it easier for you to do business with us. We're going to be customer friendly. We're going to have easier terms and conditions. We're going to get away from these inflexible individual circuit term contracts. We're going to support you well, and we're going to have a reliable network. And that's really, it kind of feels like the new branding with the same old heavy-handed network services model that's outlived its usefulness.
That would be nice. I mean, the chief marketing officer did say in the press release that the core purpose of Lumen is to further human progress through technology, which, I thought was kind of hilarious because, as any carrier customer knows, as we know, working with carrier customers, the core purpose of the company is to generate revenue for shareholders, and that usually comes out of their customers' pockets. So one thing worth noting that may be a bigger deal that comes out of this is a possible real corporate reorganization that would have an impact on enterprise customers. Perhaps Lumen getting rid of the old ILEC assets that aren't needed to serve enterprise customers, or spinning off ILEC CenturyLink into its own company so that Lumen can focus on all the things that CenturyLink did not. And that could ultimately be a big plus for business customers.
We've all been in this business for a long time and have seen that Verizon, for example, has done quite a bit of that over the last few years, that shedding of those kinds of assets, which makes me think of another point. Lumen/CenturyLink, it doesn't have a wireless offering like AT&T and Verizon, and that can go both ways. On the one hand, it's a big service technology gap in their portfolio. And enterprises, they use a ton of wireless services. I mean, mobility is really front and center for most of them today. But on the other hand, most wireless services really are consumer-driven offerings kind of packaged up for enterprise buyers, from pricing plans to service offerings. But there is so much potential for truly enterprise-specific wireless services, like using 4 and 5G service for machine-to-machine connections, IoT, and frankly, just fixed line replacement. So I guess Lumen will have to find a place to deliver or support those if they are serious about the enterprise market. Okay, guys, that's about all of the time that we have. But one last thing. What do you think of this name, Lumen?
Well, Lumen, it's a great name. It's fine, but rebranding, it's really interesting, fun, exciting. There's new logos, there's new business cards, there's new websites. But in reality, enterprise customers don't really care about those things as much as they care about a stable suite of services backed by gold star customer service and support. I would have been much more impressed if CenturyLink had announced yesterday all the things that they had done in the past 2 weeks since their last major outage to prevent any of those things from happening in the future. I wouldn't have cared what they were called.
Ouch. Wow. Yeah, I actually love the new name because it's a classic ILEC renaming of itself. It uses a word whose actual definition doesn't really make a ton of sense for the company. I don't know if it's better or worse than when companies make up a word for a company name, but I remember when Bell Atlantic merged with GTE and put out this really awesome press release about its new name, combining the words Veritas, which it said connoted certainty and reliability, and Horizon, which was like forward-looking and visionary. And after they did that, everyone promptly started mispronouncing the name and confusing it with another company, VeriSign. So I think Lumen will be at least as successful as that. And it's a great time for their mission to further human progress through technology.
Okay, thanks, guys. I'm not going to illuminate. If you'd like to learn more about this name change, or if you have other ICT needs, please do contact Theresa, Andrew, me, or any of our LB3 and TC2 colleagues by giving us a call or dropping us an email. You can also stay current by subscribing to these podcasts, checking out our websites, or by following us on LinkedIn.